Hello there my music lovers, I'm Joshua audiophile-heaven and today we are having a look at a very expensive, large, heavyweight amplifier for speakers like those in the back. This is the Jadis Orchestra Reference Amplifier. The price of the Jadis Orchestra Reference is now about $4,000 and it can be found on second hand between $2,000 and $3,000. This is a very high price. It has about 40 watts in class B and it consumes about 300 watts of power to produce that 40 watts. Like, what's up with this Jadis? Why do you do this? Why do you consume so much and why do you produce such a low power? What's up with that? This unit is pretty much new. It has been used lightly so that I have some burn-in to tell you how it sounds like. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool. It has that cool factor when you first see it. It has those monoblocks in the back. It has 4 tubes here and 2 smaller tubes which are used for the preamplifier section, while the larger tubes are used for the power amplifier. I don't know if you are a believer in the tube sound, and that is an important question for this review because if you are not a believer in the tube sound, it doesn't make a lot of sense to you. This is made to sound like a tubby amp, but not the tubby without treble, but it is one of those tubby sounds which has more of that musical sound and less of that analytical sound that is too dry and is too to the ear. Now, the Jadis Orchestra Reference is huge. This thing is heavy. It's about 50 kilograms. I am barely able to lift it up. I don't know if the 50 kilograms are for the amplifier alone or the amplifier with the packaging, but at any rate, I am not really able to lift it. I need to stand and my back really hurts. It's really hard. I can't really do this on video, so you get an idea what you are getting here. The power transformer is the thing that weighs the most in it, and you can feel the fact that this area is way heavier than the rest of the amplifier. The Jadis Orchestra has 5 inputs and 1 output in the format of RCA jacks, and it has just 1 output for speakers, so no by-wiring with the Jadis Orchestra. And regardless whether you believe or not in by-wiring or if you believe or not in cables, the Jadis Orchestra does react better to slightly better cables. So I would recommend, if you have the chance to invest in slightly better cables, do not go with the Jadis Orchestra with the cheapest cables you can find. When I say this, I don't mean that you should sell your liver, your spleen and your lungs for cables. Just get something at $50, $100, something decent. Do not get the cheapest $5 cables for a large speaker system. And I'm saying this because I've seen this quite a lot. A lot of people have tried to use very expensive components like very high quality speakers, very good amplifiers and very good DACs, but they did not want to invest in a decent cable. I just mean it, just use a decent cable. Don't use the cheapest thing you can find. The Jadis Orchestra is not very sensitive to cables though, so it is not worth to invest in the most expensive cables, and as far as I could tell, it is not very sensitive to power cords either, so do not invest in the most expensive power cord. I just used the cheapest power cord I had on hand and compared it to an audiophile grade one. No difference, nada. It is not sensitive to those. The design of the power transformer may have something to do with that, and this is not actually true for every single thing out there, but for the Jadis Orchestra it is. At the moment of doing this video, I do not really have a power conditioner that is strong enough to drive the Jadis Orchestra, and since it consumes 300 watts of power, yeah, you need a pretty high quality, high grade power conditioner for it. Front of the Jadis Orchestra has one on and off switch, which really clicks loudly, is very secured in place. Then there is the LED or LED, which shows you whether it is working or not, and that will come in quite handy. Then there are 3 wheels, one for selecting the input, that is quite handy, 1 wheel for selecting the volume, and 1 wheel for selecting the balance. The Jadis Orchestra needs you to fine-tune the tubes before placing them in, but that is another thing I have tested. I just selected a random set of tubes, plugged them into the Jadis Orchestra, they were just fine. Nothing broke, nothing burned. Yeah, so I do not really think that you need to invest that much effort and manpower to actually tune the tubes. The tubes work just fine without a lot of effort. There are some myths about it and there are some truths about it. One of the myths, which is also a truth, is that this little thing here actually lights up when you use the remote, and that is pretty cool. I like the effect. Another thing that is a myth is that it has a lot of background noise, which is not true. It is a very expensive unit, I won't lie to you. It was about $8,000 if I found the price correctly online, so you could purchase this for $8,000, 8 grand. That is more than a very high quality car. And just to put this into perspective, it sounds like it. It has zero background noise, zero hissing. Even if you turn it at the maximum volume, it has no noise, nothing. It is dead silent. What's more, it has an incredible amount of dynamics, punch and detail. I actually have heard much more analytical power amplifiers. It is not the most analytical one. It just blends perfectly an analytical and resolute sound with a sound that is musical and enjoyable in the long term. That being said, the Jadis Orchestra is made in France and it is made in Europe, and I don't think that the quality is necessarily better than the things made in China. I'll be honest with you. I think that both can have excellent quality regardless whether they are built, and I think that even if you make them in Europe, you can find some pretty poor quality products. So let's get that out of the way. I am not biased against Chinese products. Chinese products can totally rock, and your iPhone is made in China, and I'm pretty sure whatever you are watching this video on is also made in China. So yeah, no bashing on that. But the thing is that Europeans have a taste for design. They usually go that one step ahead to make the design look cool. And that is a big thing with the Jadis Orchestra. It looks really, really cool. It is not one of those power amplifiers that is made to just, why does it look like that? No, it is one of that makes you think, this looks pretty cool. Yeah. And that is the thing. It makes you think, this is the cool stuff. I want this in my room. I want to see this. I don't want to throw this away. I don't want to hide this. The Jadis Orchestra just looks cool. And that may be true for most of tube amplifiers out there, but there is wood in the build of the Jadis Orchestra. But to put that into perspective, you can purchase very high quality wooden furniture at IKEA for $30 or $50 or $100 for a bed. So the fact that they included wood doesn't mean that much. It doesn't really increase the cost. You are not paying for the build cost of it. The build cost is pretty cheap. It costs $1,000 at maximum. It is not expensive to make, but it is expensive to make it sound good. And that is the fun part, when it really sounds so good that you really start thinking, I should probably consider investing that kind of money in it. That is when they managed to do their job well. When you really like the way it sounds, when you don't really have to think, that is an expensive thing, that is not worth the asking price, that is just bad. When you actually start to think, it sounds good, I should consider it. My system sounds just so good, I kind of want that. When you start thinking like that about a component, that is when you found something that you should put in your system. I've done tests with both the Butchart S400 and the DALI Econ 2 Mark II. Both are passive speakers. It is made to work with passive speakers. A passive speaker is one which does not have any active amplification components inside. And I actually preferred the sound with the DALI Econ 2 Mark II because the sound had considerably better treble sparkle. The sound was wider. Everything was beautiful. The Butchart tends to lack some of that treble crisp, and it tends to be pretty smooth, pretty relaxing, a bit darkish, and that is not necessarily a bad thing, if I am to be honest. It is not something that is bad, but it is something that doesn't really work well when you have an amplifier that is as detailed, as crisp and as clear as the Jadis Orchestra reference. If you need something that sounds this good, yeah, better invest in a speaker that reveals that. If you need to give some sparkle to a speaker, this is not necessarily bright. This is actually natural in tuning. You don't have extra brightness, you don't have any special kind of feature in the sound. It is just natural, it is just beautifully designed. And yeah, just look at it. Do you want to see this in your room when you work? Do you want to have this around, or do you want to hide it? Would you purchase a Jadis Orchestra yourself? Actually, leave a comment, I'm curious. Would you get one if it was more expensive, if it was cheaper? What is the highest price you'd purchase it at? And why? Why wouldn't you get it? I'm curious what you think, my guys, because those videos are for you. This review sample is a personal unit. It is not provided by Jadis. Actually, I'm curious what you think about it. I'm actually half happy with it, I'll be honest with you. The maximum power of 40 watts is quite high when it is in actual class B from tubes. It is a lot of power, and I'll be honest with you, I have had amplifiers that could go on 200 watts in technical power, but they distorted so badly that I couldn't really use those 200 watts. It was useless. I could only use the first few watts. And that is the good part. You should remember the first watt is the most important watt of power. Is the first watt is clear, clean and crisp, then the other ones are too. If at low volumes it has distortions, those distortions will be only amplified at higher volumes. And I really recommend you considering this. Purchase something that sounds good at every volume. You want to have the ability to throw a party. Although we are in current total lockdown, I am sure that if you purchase this with a decent pair of speakers, you could throw a party that would uproar the whole neighborhood. If you want to have something that has a lot of power, and I mean a lot of power, the Jadis Orchestra reference does have it. Is it perfect? Well, it is not perfect. It is expensive, it is heavy, it is inconvenient to use. Those tubes will run out, they need to be replaced from time to time. Those mini tubes too. It costs money to run, and 300 watts of power being burned on it continuously where it is turned on is quite a lot of power. The warranty offered by Jadis is so and so. I could not get in touch with them to answer my mails, even though I am an actual customer. So some interesting stuffs about the Jadis and as a company and about this product. At the end of the day, I would recommend it to you if you can get a pretty nice deal for it. If you can find it for cheap, or if you can find it for a fair price, I would recommend considering it. If you can give it a listen, then even better, you should, because you may be surprised to hear whether you like it or not. Some people may actually fall in love with it, some people may dislike it, but as far as I can tell, most people will actually like it because it is natural. It doesn't really have much of a coloring, but it has that beautiful mid-range that is tubey and which you all appreciate. It has a beautiful overall design, and although it doesn't have an excellent price-performance ratio, in today's world you can find it on pretty cheap, especially since most units are second-hand or are pretty old. It was released quite a while ago, many years ago, so yeah, why not consider it. And I hope this video has been enjoyable to watch. I hope this video came in handy. I want to ask, if you can spare a dime, please leave a little donation. Even every single dollar counts, and I would be forever grateful if you could do that. Really, thank you. I hope you'll also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Also leave a like on this video if you enjoyed the content. I hope you have a lovely week in there, and see each other really soon. Bye bye.